Hello, this is Al Class and Al's Cozy Corner, where we'll be reading today part one of chapter 5, where Alison and Rodham kind of go on their covert adventure um, to find more information out about the vampires living next door. Chapter 5, Alison. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the apartment. Alison inhaled deeply, then pulled her body upright for the comfort of her bed, slipped her feet into her fuzzy purple house shoes, and strolled to the kitchen. She poured a half a cup, added 3 spoons of sugar, and filled the rest of the cup with French vanilla creamer. Cup in hand, she padded through the apartment, searching for her mom. When she didn't find her, she hoped that meant she was paying the leasing office a visit, and she wouldn't have to go into stealth mode under her nose. A text from Rodham shot across the screen of Allison's phone. Be ready at noon. She glimpsed the message and typed back, my mom's going to the office today. Can't go till after she does. Laying the phone on her dresser, she sifted through her wardrobe for burglar black. Remembering the blazing Florida heat, she changed her mind and settled on denim shorts and a t-shirt. Her mother's voice outside and the steady thumping on the neighbor's door carried through the walls of the apartment. She parted the blinds to see. Both her mother and the leasing lady stood in the breezeway. With a sigh, she raked her fingers through her hair and texted Rodham. Change of plans, meet me in the parking lot now. With the leasing office on the other side of the complex, the equivalent of a couple of blocks, it would be a while before she got back, providing an opportunity she couldn't pass up. Scribbling a note for her mom, she stuck it on the fridge under a magnet, grabbed her keys, and scurried to the door. The apartment next door stuck out 2 feet further than her own. She gently opened and closed the door so as not to make a sound. Her eyes darted towards the sound of her mother's voice, but she couldn't see her. She twisted her key in the lock and skirted the building, staying close to the inside wall. She hadn't gone further than a few steps when a door opened and Rodham appeared. He glanced her way and parted his mouth as if to speak. Before he could get one word out, Alison lifted a finger to her mouth, signaling for him to be quiet. He nodded and shifted his eyes towards her mother and the leasing lady. Good morning. In unison, both women responded, Good morning. He was already around the corner. Alison stood beside his car. He saw tufts of her ginger hair, then 2 amber eyes, just above the top of the car. Laughing at how silly she looked, he asked, Was that your mother? Yes, let's do this while they're busy. The door locks clinked and she climbed into the passenger seat. Okay, Rodham responded, lifting one eyebrow at her amused behavior. His engine roared and Alison sunk down in the passenger seat, so her head fell beneath the window. He chuckled. You don't need to duck. She can't see you. My mom has eyes everywhere. I'm not taking any chances. Once they left the parking lot, she lifted her head and pulled her body into an upright position. They cruised past the lake and waterfall and turned into the main parking lot. He whipped his car into a parking space. I'm going in. Keep the car running, she ordered, leaping out of the car. Aye, aye, matey, he said in a pirate voice. So sexy. Alison darted through the parking lot and up the brick steps. Planters of colorful flowers stood beside the double doors. As she pushed the door open, she ogled the inside, checking to be sure she was alone. A huge ceiling fan, the blades shaped like palm leaves, swished above her head. The guest computers blinked in unison and the lounge area was empty. Sucking in a lungful of air to rid her stomach of the mass of butterflies flying around inside it, she tiptoed straight to the back, dodging desks and wastebaskets to avoid making noise, and made a left. To her relief, keys to every apartment lined the wall, like he said. They were ordered numerically. She found number 1106 and yanked one set off the peg. Ready to bolt, she glanced back at the peg and thought the extra set may come in handy, so she skated it off the peg too, then slid both into her pocket. The bell on the door rang as she stepped into the hall. Fixing her body alongside the wall, she slid back into the room. Heels clicked on the tile floor, and her heart thumped hard inside her chest. A trickle of sweat dribbled across her forehead, and she scanned the little room for a place to hide. In a fit of panic, she pressed her back against the wall and hoped for the best. The footsteps halted at the small desk in front of the door. She held her breath, too afraid the sound of her breathing would capture the lady's attention, and squished her eyes shut, hoping the leasing lady didn't turn around. Unable to watch with her eyes, she listened with her ears as the lady fumbled through a stack of papers on the desk. Then the click of her heels moved further away. Allison's eyes popped open and she let out a deep breath. She poked her head around the corner of the room and stared towards the lobby. Rodham stood in the front of the office. His brown eyes flashed at Allison. Then he walked with the leasing lady towards the open lounge area filled with the floral wicker couches and glass tables. Allison's heartbeat returned to normal as she scurried down the hall and out the large double doors. Before she let go of the door, she glanced towards Rodham. He winked. Without further hesitation, she walked through the lot and jumped into his car, sinking into the back passenger seat. A few minutes later, Rodham strolled out of the office with a huge smile on his face and his dimple teasing her cheek. "I got your back. Did you get it?" His eyes flashed with intrigue as he slid into the driver's seat. Yep, she dangled the key in front of him. The vampires weren't home. "I watched them leave. What do you say we go there now?" "In broad daylight?" Her eyes grew huge with fear. "They're vampires. Where else do we go?" he said, snickering. "But my mama's home. I live next door. OMG, I am going to get so caught." "No, you won't. I'll go in. You keep watching the breezeway. Text me if you see anyone walking towards the apartment." Allison moaned with anxiety, but resigned herself to assisting him with the escapade, the dimple nipping at his cheek, and his silky chocolate eyes melted her strength to resist. The most she could do was warn him what to look for. She read enough books to have all the vampire folklore memorized. She blinked a couple of times, then started her spiel. "Vampires don't like mirrors, and their reflections don't show. They don't like garlic. Silver and crosses can be used to ward them off. Oh, and the holy water burns them, along with sunlight." She touched his arm as he entered the apartment. Her eyes shifted to meet his and whispered, "Please be careful." Allison finally had a friend, a hot friend. He had to be safe. She planted her butt on the steps outside the door and leaned backward. The concrete wall offered little comfort for her back as she stared through the gaps between the steps, noticing the bottles, caps, and butts outside the apartment were gone. A short time later, a young man dressed in flip-flops and knee-length nylon shorts walked past her up the steps. She shifted her body as close to the wall as she could and pretended to text. He continued up the steps and disappeared into an apartment. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes passed. Anxiety manifested in her gut as she waited. Tempted to call him, she stared at her phone, her foot nervously tapping the cement stair. Sweat from the high humidity and extreme summer heat dribbled down her face. Visualizations of sharp, movie vampire fangs digging into Rodham's soft ebony complexion, draining him of the very blood that kept him alive, coasted through her head. She shook her head to rid them, but the thoughts clung to the back of her mind like super glue. 15 minutes passed, and the suspense killed her inside. He'd come to her rescue. Maybe now she needed to come to his. Lifting herself off the concrete step, peeling her back off the wall, she scrambled down the stairs. When she reached the bottom step, the door opened and Rodham appeared. We'll continue next week with part 2 of chapter 5. I hope you enjoyed Al's Cozy Corner.